Good afternoon, everyone. 4 o'clock straight up on a Friday edition of On Cue, coming at you live inside the friendly confines of the SR 1029 FM, the Game remote studios, and of course, part of the Coastal Sports Digital Network. As always, I'm your host, Rich Quinones. We got 2 hours to play with. We'll take you up to 6 o'clock straight up. First and foremost, hope everyone had a wonderful Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, whatever you were celebrating. I hope Santa was good to you. Now, I will say this on this 26th of December, 2025, Q Claus was not happy with what I got. I guess I was a little too naughty over the past year, but I'm hoping I do get a gift on Sunday with the giant loss. A lot of NFL to dive into today. The rivalry that is the NBA and the NFL. We've got Charles Barkley's comments against the NFL. We got some gut check opportunities over the weekend. We've got panic mode for teams that are just trying to figure it out right now, right? Because now we come into week 17, 18, and we know that pretty much the playoffs are set, where it's going to get a little dicey if you're Carolina, if you're Tampa, if you're Pittsburgh, and you're Baltimore. And we'll get into some of the seedings as well. John Bueller from Fansided is going to join us 5 o'clock. We'll also talk a little college football as well. As you guys know, it's a What the Frig Friday edition of On Cue, powered by our good friends over at Fresh Roasted Coffee. 20% off your first purchase, and use promo code BYP20. Always easy to get social with me as well. At Rich Q on X, IG, TikTok, Rich Q on Mike. We're also live on Kicks as well, so you can check out that channel. That would be the channel under Talka Talka. Very easy to remember as well. We'll tweet that out after the 15-minute mark of the show. And do me a favor, download the AUDACY app and search Coastal Sports Digital Network, and you'll be able to catch us Monday to Friday, 4 to 6. I dropped a new edition of BYP with Lloyd Vance. That's up on the YouTube channel as well. That'll air tomorrow and Saturday on demand, repeat on TV 48 WWON in New York. And I guess right now, if you think about this, so this is what we learned in the NFL yesterday. We'll get into the whole issue with Netflix and the streaming, because I know a lot of guys were hitting me up. What are my thoughts on that? But Cowboys in Washington playing out the string, right? Anytime a game is meaningless, Dak Prescott goes off. That's what he did yesterday. They didn't cover, but they hit the over. One of the biggest disappointments of the 2025 season, I give you the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions absolutely, unequivocally, with a disastrous season. And there's going to be a lot of questions that are going to have to get answered in the offseason if you are a Detroit Lions fan. What a no-show yesterday. I mean, that's as embarrassing of a loss as I can remember. And listen, I know Minnesota's defense is pretty good. Brian Flores is a hell of a defensive coordinator. But you had a quarterback yesterday that threw for 51 yards, completed 9 out of 16. 9 out of 16 in Max Brosmer, and Jared Goff, a perennial MVP, a 4,500 yard passer, 25 to 35 touchdown a year quarterback, musters up under 200 yards, a pick, 2 picks, and a touchdown. Not going to get it done. Not going to get it done. Minnesota was able to run the football. They ran for $158. They averaged 5.6. What happened to all this offense by the Detroit Lions? I mean, you go back to Dan Campbell a couple years ago, man, the opportunity was there. The window has shut when they lost against the 49ers, up 17 in the NFC Championship. I mean, has there been a bigger disappointment this season than the Detroit Lions? I mean, think about this. The Detroit Lions last year, they were the toast of the NFL. They were the toast of the NFL. Everyone loved the Detroit Lions, and then Washington goes on the road in the playoffs and rips them apart. The Detroit Lions looked like they were a juggernaut. They won 15 games last season. 15-2. They lost to Buffalo. And then they lost earlier in the season to Tampa Bay. And after they lost to Tampa Bay, they ripped off 10 straight, 11 straight. And it just carried over into the offseason. They gave up 45 against Washington. It carried over from that divisional round playoff loss. They never were able to get off the mat. What a disappointing season for the Lions. Now they've dropped 3 straight, and they finish out the season against Chicago. Then you had Denver Broncos, my Denver Broncos last night. And I'll give Kansas City credit. Kansas City showed that they still have heart. I mean, that's what you look for. They have a little moxie. They have heart. And they hung in there. And the Denver Broncos basically just said, okay, it's an ugly game. We just want to get out of here with the W. And that's exactly what they did. They go for it on 4th down late. And then Bo Nix with the touchdown toss very, very late. And you just knew Kansas City, again, with a backup, they were not going to come back and win that game. Obviously, they covered the large number. Bo Nix, pedestrian-like numbers, 26 of 38, a buck 82. They ran the ball well. Nix accounted for 42 yards on the ground. But again, you know, Kansas City, a quarterback that you never even heard of, was put in a bad spot, and he threw for 66 yards. They couldn't run the football. Kansas City limping to the finish. They're going to be a team that's going to have a pretty decent draft pick, and they will reboot and they will retool. I don't know what's going to go on with Travis Kelce. Nobody knows what's going to go on with Travis Kelce. He's 10 yards away from 13,000 receiving yards in his career. He should get it. They should force feed him the football next weekend because it could be the end of a Hall of Fame career for Travis Kelce. I thought the games overall were bad. And I know Charles Barkley came out during the the NBA, the pregame tip-off show inside the NBA, and basically called the NFL pigs and Roger Goodell greedy. I totally understand that the NBA loves Christmas. Christmas is basically, you think about the NBA, you get your 3 or 4 games. In this case, would you have 6 yesterday? Wall-to-wall, nonstop, 15, 14, 16 hours of NBA action. Fantastic, right? I mean, that's a little exaggerating, but still. You had a lot of games played yesterday. My Knicks, unbelievable, come from behind win, down big. They beat the Cavs. The Knicks are special. The Knicks are a very good team. Thunder lose again to the Spurs. The Spurs are flexing their muscle as a young team. You know, the Warriors turning back the clock. The Rockets over the Lakers. The Lakers are such a bunch of scrubs, man. LeBron retire already. And then you had the ridiculous triple-double by Joker last night, which was his stat line, 56, 16, and 16. Incredible. So Barkley basically comes out and says that the NFL, Roger Goodell, they're greedy. They're a bunch of pigs. Well, you know what? I get it. You know, you can kind of get irate, but you're never going to compete with the NFL. And Christmas Day has traditionally been the major spotlight for the NBA. I tell you guys this, I've been saying it for 20 plus years. This is when I really start to get into the NBA right around this time. Now, granted, it's because also the past decade, the Giants haven't been a very good football team. They've been a horrible, lousy football team. And the NFL traditionally only played on Christmas when it lined up with the league's normal schedule, which at times was a rarity. But go back a couple years ago, the NFL decided we're going to have one game each Christmas. And despite the fact that it, was on a Wednesday last year, they basically double dipped with Netflix. And that's one of the reasons they paid 150, 160 million to get a 3-year deal. And the games last year, I think they were a little more competitive. Obviously, this year, totally different story. So sure, the NBA has been holding games on Christmas Day since, 75, 76, 77 years? 78. 78th year, the NBA holding games on Christmas. Because you want the brightest stars, the biggest stage. And I'll ask you, I'll throw it out there right now. How many people actually watched the NBA yesterday as opposed to the NFL? The streaming on Netflix was so hit or miss. It was so hit or miss. It kept coming in and out and buffering, and it was a mess. By the way, I didn't need to see these players get interviewed on a friggin' Zoom call while the game's going on. And I'll admit right now, I was going back and forth. I was going back and forth. I was flipping. And then I started to watch Netflix. And then I started to count sheep because I know I got games later on tonight and tomorrow after we're off the air. I didn't watch with a close eye. Obviously, with the Knicks being on at 12, we got off the air yesterday, I think 11:30 in the morning. So I watched a little bit, no doubt. And then I wanted to get into the football. And then I went back to the NBA. And then that was pretty much it. But the games were eh. And the NBA games were eh. And the NFL games were eh. They didn't have any juice. They didn't. I understand what Barkley's saying, but you're not going to compete with the NFL. That's the problem. The NFL runs everything. It runs everything. Look, there were no sexy games yesterday, but I'm curious to see what the ratings are because you had Dallas playing, which, I mean, you had backups galore. You had the Vikings started an undrafted rookie. The Lions fan watched yesterday because it was elimination time for them. And then you had the Chiefs and the last hurrah, and then Denver, right? I mean, the Chiefs were playing a third stringer. Commanders played a veteran Josh Johnson, a third stringer. And then the Vikings played an undrafted rookie in Max Brosner. So I get it. And the two actually were on Netflix. Chiefs Broncos was on Amazon Prime. Kind of their Thursday night as part of their usual Thursday night football coverage. But the NFL's king. The NFL can play on a Tuesday. We're going to watch. The NFL can play on a Friday. We're going to watch. The NFL can play on a Wednesday. We're going to watch. Like, I got news for Chuck. It doesn't matter, when the game, you're still going to watch. You're still going to watch. And the numbers are going to justify that. All right, 13 past 4 o'clock hour, cranking up on a Football Friday edition of On Cue. Rich Quinones here. John Bueller in the 5 o'clock hour. We might scoop in Lloyd for a couple minutes. We'll see. We'll get to your comments as well on the other side. We'll take up to 6 o'clock. Just a reminder, as always, download the AUDACY app. Check out Coastal Sports Digital Network. That's where you'll find us as well, Monday to Friday, 4 to 6. Very easy to get social with me on X and IG at Rich Q on Q. Also, TikTok, Rich Q on Mike. We're also on Kicks. So very easy to just basically go to Kicks, Kick. Check out the channel, Talka, Talka, and you'll see On Cue hosted by myself, yours truly, Rich Quinones. All right, quick time out. We'll come back on the other side. We'll reset the table. A lot of NFL to get into. We'll get your thoughts on the NBA, the NFL. Then you had that clown fan of the Lions speak today, which was a joke. We'll get into that. And very interesting weekend in the NFL. We'll give you some injury updates, also some updated odds. Keep it locked in on a Friday edition of Q. Just cranking up. Quick timeout. We'll come back on the other side. Welcome back. 15 past 4 o'clock hour. Let's get into some of your comments. Esteban chimes in. All right, Q. AKTV download speeds about 800 millibytes. The quality is horrible. Commercials look incredible. Yeah, I watched a little bit. Drew chimes in. Q. Let's be honest. A Netflix halftime show with Snoop is better than any Super Bowl halftime show the NFL has put on in recent memory. Caleb chimes in. Q. Did you really notice how bad the Netflix NFL broadcast were? They were amateur-ish dick. You mean amateurish? Or you meant amateurish? The in-game interviews were a disaster. Yes, I agree with you. He also goes on, why the F is a wrestler giving me football and an analyst at halftime? We don't know. I couldn't answer you that one. I don't know. It was just not my cup of tea. Sometimes you got to lower the volume and just deal with it. Dan chimes in. QQQ, very depressing. 23-10. I have no idea what the hell happened to my Lions this season. They just had a down year. I think the Lions are one of the biggest disappointments that we've seen in recent memory, especially when you win 15 games. And then you have a young quarterback in Jaden Daniels and a trending up team in Washington go on the road and put up 45 in the playoffs in a divisional round after you got to bye. Unacceptable. Unacceptable. KC fan chimes in. Q, do you think Kelsey is done? I don't know. I think a lot of it is fresh. I think there's always that raw emotion. I think he understands that his career is winding down. But I just think also, I also think that sometimes the body starts to betray you a little bit. And that's a problem. And speaking of body betraying, listen, there are some key injuries this weekend. Lamar Jackson right now, he's trending towards being out, which I'll give you my thoughts in a second. Crosby is going to be out with the Raiders, and that's a huge lift for the Giants in the Tank Bowl. Now, the Lamar Jackson situation is really interesting because I think there is a lot of pressure on Harbaugh, and there is a lot of pressure on Lamar Jackson. And if I'm Lamar Jackson, I got to be out there. I got to be out there. I'm sorry. I got to be out there. If I can move around, you know, hey, do me a favor. Get the needle, shoot me up, and I got to be out there. Jordan Love's a different story with Green Bay. He's dealing with the concussion. So he's going to be out. This opens up the door for Baltimore. You can't take any chances. You got to win this game. You got to win this game. This can go a long way. Lamar Jackson being out there, even though he's listed as doubtful, this can go a long way to see where the Ravens really are at when you start talking about long term with Lamar Jackson. I don't like calling players soft, and I don't like to speculate. Okay? I don't. And everyone's going back to the tackle, what did he do? Scrape his knee? Right? I don't want to hear that. I think that's being unfair. All I'm saying is players play banged up. Hell, Eli Manning played like an MVP when he had plantar fasciitis the entire season. He basically played with a bad shoulder after 2 weeks in 2007. Marino played hurt. Aikman played hurt. Montana played hurt. Sims played hurt. And if you're Lamar Jackson, you need to be out there. You need to be out there because this potentially could be the last 2 games of Lamar Jackson's career in Baltimore. Could be the last 2 games of his career in Baltimore. He's got to be out there. Man says, happy Friday. Right back at you. NFL is so far ahead of All-American sport, I believe that is, as opposed to spot. They might as well have 2 lists, one for the NFL, another for the other sports. Perhaps Man is dipping a little Three Brooks bourbon at 420. In-game interviews need to be scraped ASAP. They're horrible. And the athlete interview, like Emmitt Smith in a Zoom call, I don't need to see that crap. It was shoddy at best. I mean, the scoreboard bugs looks like it was like made by like cheap AI. And the other thing is, the broadcast had no juice. These games had no juice at all. The Czech chimes in. Q, always enjoying your interviews while NFL games are playing are the most irritating and blank, blank, blank. I can't repeat what he's saying. He's cursing a lot. Blank, blank, up and call the game. Netflix is trash. Alrighty. Las Vegas Maddie chimes in. Q, out west, brother. Hope it's not too cold out there in Jersey. Coverage on the Netflix was terrible. If you can't handle millions of people at once watch an event, stop having the events. This game the other day crashed 14 times, Q. My picture quality is bad. It ruined my Christmas tradition. I had to spend time with my wife. Oh, man, that's too good. Teddy Ballgame chimes in. Q, the coverage was awful. I had no idea it was going to be this bad. And, I bet on these games. I still had to endure it. Yeah, I didn't like it. I just, but again, and I just thought some of the interviews they take away from the game. If you don't have any juice, you got to give me something. Like you can have a bad broadcast, but if the graphics and the quality is good, it can mask that. If you have a bad broadcast and the quality is bad, that's just bad all around. Bad all around. DC Film, my boy from Vire Network chimes in. Q, I know I don't want to go off the beaten path, but what the hell? Nicolas Cage is John Madden. Oh my goodness. Joey B, or Joey B the real salad, as I like to call him. 11:15 a.m. Kanapali Beach, Maui. Wow. Tuning in as we get a lunch break cocktail in the condo. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Right back at you, brother. Okay. What is the weather like out there? We need a weather report because the East Coast up and down the East Coast corridor, as we like to say, New York, Delaware, DC, Virginia. I mean, probably going to skip where I am, but North Jersey, hammered, Joey. We're talking hammered with snow, hammered. So I'm just wondering, are you sitting there on top of Kawakalakalaki Beach, Maui, having a couple cocktails? Got me tuned in, which is unbelievable. That's what we want to see. That's what we want to hear. Now, are you going with the little umbrella cocktail? That's all I want to know. And 11:15 is okay. You're allowed to have a cocktail at 11:15, but what's the weather like? I need a visual. We need the scouting report. We want to know how the view is. Now, be careful now, especially if you're with the missus, but we just want to know overall how the view is. Back on Colorado, January 6th. Okay. Very nice. Very, 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 very nice. That's awesome. That sounds like a really, really fun time. They were trying to mimic the Manning. Can't do that. You can't. You can't. Oh, here we go. 82 degrees, sunny, nice breeze. Can't beat it. Oh, here we go. The wife has the umbrella in the colada, pina cocktail. I'm drinking a longboard pale ale. Come on, Joey. What are you doing? Live a little. You're going to Hawaii and you're having a long board, whatever the hell it is. Come on, man. You got to have one of the island drinks. I just Googled this, right? Kona Brewing Company's Longboard Island Lager. Popular, smooth, refreshing, pale colored lager with subtle hop notes named after the iconic Hawaii surfboards. All right, I'll allow, but you got to get a little drink. Remember in Cocktail when the guy walked up there and goes, "Hey, man, the brochure says I want one of those drinks. Give me the little pink one with the umbrella." That's what you need. You got to get a little pink one with the umbrella, right? Gonna go a little surfing, a little sightseeing. When you go to Mexico, if you go to like Cozumel or Cancun, you're on the bus, all they're giving you is a cerveza or a Coke. You're not getting a little umbrella drink. Trust me, you're not. Let me get some more of these. Let me get some more of these comments. Matty in Delaware chimes in, yes, Q, you always got to rock the umbrella drink, no doubt. And as far as the games, I bet on the games. As you know, I couldn't stand it. My big question is Max Crosby is not going to suit up. Uh-oh, it's going to get dicey for your G-men. Yeah, this is not good. I need Crosby to be out there. I need the Raiders to run the football. I need them to run the football, and I need the Giants to take that L. I really do, because the more I read into this number one draft pick, whether it's going to be the kid Moore, whether it's going to be Mendoza, you are looking at perhaps a king's ransom, and that's exactly what the Giants are going to need. Man, I didn't realize so many people couldn't stand the broadcast yesterday. Amazon, I've always had an issue with Amazon for some reason, because we're so close to the ocean and the water. Sometimes the buffering, the signal stinks. Schilling chimes in, why is it every time Q Netflix does an NFL game, I feel the need to post about how terrible their broadcast is? Well, I mean, just you're not happy with it, right? Jay chimes in, and Tom's River. Q, no one actually gives a crap what Clinton Portis has to say during or after a game. Stop with this gimmick BS. They're going to try to make it appealing. And the NFL is not going to stop selling games to Netflix. They're not. Why? Because they know it's marketing, it's branding. They believe they're going to get millions and millions of eyeballs and viewers. I don't even think they care about the quality, to be quite honest. I don't think they really care about the quality of the broadcast. They just want to be seen. That's the NFL. They just want to be seen. They want more eyeballs. They always want more eyeballs. But again, I'm okay with, Clinton Portis being interviewed, but I'm not going to, do it during a certain sequence of a game or an important sequence. I never like that. Or do it at halftime. Do it at halftime. But you have too many technical issues. You can't have hundreds of millions of that. You can't have that type of company, that type of streaming platform, and have streaming issues. Your whole business plan and model is what? Real-time streaming, like flawless, without interruption. And then the buffering, watching the game live. I mean, it's just like, it's like back in the day, right? You're using CompuServe and you're waiting for somebody to get off the phone so you can have internet access. Ty chimes in, Q, I'm laughing my ass off. But yes, I agree with you. Terrible stream quality, long interviews mid-game. Terrible, terrible, terrible product in my Barkley voice. And then he adds, P.S., I'm not really interested in what Portis has to say. Yeah. Paulie chimes in, Netflix trying to live stream is just an absolutely horrible idea. I actually thought I was watching Nintendo 64, which can't really go wrong with Nintendo 64. Yeah, the games weren't competitive. Even that Denver game, man, we talked, Lloyd and I talked a little bit about this today. The Denver game, Denver does not make life easier for them. They really don't. And as long as you get out of there with a win, you're going to take it. But they got to figure out their offense is so hit or miss. You can't win a playoff game scoring 10 or 13. Now, if you want to tell me that their defense is going to have to play lights out, that's another thing. But you're doing it against a kid you never even heard of under center for Kansas City. That's a problem. A lot of meaningful football this weekend. Texans and the Chargers. Packers already clinched due to Detroit's loss. So there's one more playoff spot up for grabs in the NFC. It's either going to be Tampa or Carolina. Cardinals and Bengals playing out the string. Steelers right there with the AFC North title on the horizon. Jacksonville and the Colts. So again, you got a very good matchup for Jacksonville, looking to solidify that AFC South title. Tampa, their last stand against Miami. Seattle trying to keep pace, try to lock up that number one seed. Some of these scenarios are ridiculous how these teams can get it. The Eagles right now are firmly planted at the 3 seed. There's a slight chance they can get the 2 seed, but too much has to happen. So as it would stand, the Philadelphia Eagles would take on the Rams. Now, the benefit of that is that game would be in Philadelphia, where the Eagles already beat them. Also beat them last year in a divisional round. But they travel up, take on Buffalo. You know the weather's going to be crazy. I don't know, because the Eagles have locked up the NFC East. They're pretty much right there at the 3 seed. You know, next week, and are you playing a Jalen Hurts? Are you playing a Saquon Barkley? Are you resting up guys? That's a conversation for midweek. Bears and the 49ers, and then Monday Night Football, the Rams and the Falcons. There is a lot at stake, especially when we're talking about home field advantage. I said this yesterday, and I'll say it again if you missed it. I believe whoever gets home field advantage, and this is not a stretch, but I believe anyone that gets home field advantage in the NFC and the AFC respectively, they're going to represent their conference in the Super Bowl. I don't know if Mike and Michael is here yet, but the Broncos flirt with disaster every week. They do. They play a very dicey game, and that's a problem. How on earth do they struggle with defeating Kansas City team with a practice squad? I don't get it. I don't get it. I really don't have an answer. Are they playing down to the level? Do the Broncos need to be down 17 points in the fourth quarter with 9 minutes to go to thrive? Now, to be fair, as you pointed out, you said this last year with Kansas City, if I recall, man. They find a way to win. And that's the mark of a good team. Now, if you backed any Denver Broncos fan in the corner, they would probably like to have a game like yesterday kind of be this 35-10, and Bo Nix is sitting midway through the fourth. They really haven't had that this year. Think about it. They've had maybe 1 or 2 blowouts. They maybe had 1 or 2 blowout wins. They blew out Dallas. They beat them 44-24. But let's go and look. They opened up the season against the Titans. They won 20-12. They lost 2 games, late field goals, to the Colts and Chargers. Now, Chargers are a playoff team. The Colts look like they were going to be a playoff team. I'll say 28-3 is a blowout. They blew out Cincinnati, came from behind against the Eagles, beat a bad Jets team by 2, had the crazy win, the game of the year against my Giants, blew out the Cowboys, low-scoring win against the Texans, low-scoring win against the Raiders, low-scoring win against Kansas City, low-scoring win against the Commanders, low-scoring game against the Raiders. They put up 34 against the Packers and then got humbled last week. I can't figure them out. Is their defense good enough to carry them and win a Super Bowl? Because when you point it out like that, it just doesn't make sense. Like, how can you win so many games like that week in and week out? Or is that just the mark of a good team, a gritty, gutty team? It just doesn't make sense. Of course, of the time frame, would this be considered difficult for beating the same team 3 times in 1 year? No. I don't think so. I don't. Because it is every given Sunday. It's a war of attrition. You never know who might get hurt. It's a bounce of a ball, fluky plays. You know as much as I do. If you look right now, if I'll give you the scenarios, here's your updated, and we'll stick with the NFC to start. Seattle is currently the 1 seed. Chicago is the 2 seed. Philadelphia is pretty much set with the 3 seed. Carolina would be the 4th seed. San Fran would be the 5 seed. They would be wild card number 1. The Rams, the 6 seed. So the Eagles actually get the Rams, wild card 2. And then Green Bay is the number 7 seed. Now, again, that 4 seed could also belong to Tampa Bay. Green Bay benefited from the Lions' loss because now it allows them to mathematically clinch a playoff spot. So it's okay to rest Jordan Love tomorrow. And they can be no worse than the number 7 seed, which is the final playoff spot. Now, They can still win the NFC North if they win tomorrow, win out, and Chicago loses out. NFC South is up for grabs. The NFC West is crazy. The NFC West is the best division of football. You can make it, and I'm telling you right now, your 49ers can go to the Super Bowl. Seattle can get to the Super Bowl. The Rams can get to the Super Bowl. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Seattle can clinch the number 1 seed and the division title with a win, plus a Rams loss tie, plus a 49ers tie. Not impossible, highly unlikely. Seattle and the 49ers, and I don't like to use the phrase control your destiny because you can't, but their path to the number 1 seed is there if they win this weekend. Seattle and San Fran will play for the number 1 seed and home field advantage throughout the playoffs. So again, it's there for them. The Niners, this would mean they would not have to go on the road at all during a run. And oh, by the way, where's the Super Bowl? Host site, right? Seattle would love to deny the 49ers that. And you have to go to Seattle to play in the NFC Championship. Oh, my goodness. That would be absurd. So I'm not sleeping on the 49ers. I'm telling you that right now. I'm not sleeping on this team. I told you they were going to win 10-plus games. And I'll man up even though it's a Friday. That's a hell of a coaching job that Kyle Shanahan has done. And that's a great job by Mac Jones to come in and also spell Purdy when he was hurt. The way this offense is clicking right now, they're scary. That's all I'm saying. Scotty Boy chimes in. Q, hope your Christmas was great, man. But I must say I agree with you. Said a few times this year, NFL has been a tough watch with boring or poor play. I will always watch, but it doesn't look great. It's the product stinks. The product stinks. But as I mentioned, did you guys watch the NBA yesterday? Or did you watch the NFL? I would venture to guess, because you guys hate when I talk NBA, 95% of my listening audience, my viewing audience, probably watched the NFL. And you dealt with the crappy production of Netflix or maybe the buffering issues with Amazon Prime. You watched. Michael chimes in. Broncos country, let's ride. By the skin of your teeth there, young man. As long as the Broncos run game shows up, then yes, the defense can carry them. Man, they're going to have, I just can't figure it out. You got to be able to put up some points in the playoffs. You have to. Like, you can't expect your defense to just shut out, right? Divisional round, shut out. When I say shut down, not hold them scoreless. I got to see more from this team. I thought last weekend they got punched in the mouth and they responded going on the road. You knew Kansas City was going to give you that heart of the champion, right? Even though they were eliminated from playoff contention. But I can't figure out the Denver Broncos, and that's the team I have winning it all. Right now, I can't figure them out. I can't. Like Sean Payton at times, I'm like, okay, you wanted to get aggressive last night. That tells me finally, let me put the ball in my young quarterback's hands and let him go out and make a play and end the game. So if you're a Bronco fan, in a game like that last night when it's a 13-13 game, because again, in that fourth quarter, even really the third quarter, I mean, think about it. It was just crazy how long these possessions were. But you get the Broncos now, after Kansas City knots it up, Broncos go 14 plays, 65 yards. And I thought last night, you had a 3rd and goal, right? And let me have my young quarterback make a play. And that's exactly what he did. He made a play. That's all you can ask. But their offense prior to that didn't do anything. 9 plays, 15 yards. I did not expect that to be a 20-13 game, but they got out of there with the win. But their offense is going to have to clean it. They got to figure it out. They got to run the football. They have to. They have to run the football. You got to run the football in January. If you don't, you're in trouble. As long as the Broncos' run game shows up, then yes, the defense can carry them. I think their D is good enough to make the Super Bowl. I don't know about winning it. I think SP is a problem when it comes to play calling. I agree. It's almost as though he overthinks, overanalyzes, or at times doesn't have trust, complete trust in his quarterback. Now, last night, 3rd and 1, roll him out. Kid makes a strike. Here we go. Win is a win. Broncos game plan. New KC could not score on them. Yeah, but I don't want that leaking over to week 18 and into the playoffs. Don't turn the ball over on the road, self-defeat like Detroit. There's a difference. Detroit doesn't have a defense like Denver. They don't. They just don't. You want to get hot at the right time. You want to be clicking on all cylinders. That's why I think if you're an Eagles fan, I would not play it to the vest and rest players, because finally your offense wakes up. You can't take anything away from the Eagles beating the Raiders 31-0. You can't. Washington, they pulled away, but you want to, because Saquon hasn't carried the ball like he has in years past, or certainly not last year. And your offensive line, you're getting some healthy players back. I would like to see them get the offense up in gear and going a little bit. And that means not resting guys. Not resting guys. Get them out there. Try to create a little bit of momentum. 49ers just became my favorite if they stay healthy. I'm telling you, right now, I am telling you at this moment, do not sleep on the 49ers. I know they dealt with a lot of injuries, especially on the defensive side. And I 100% wrong on the head coach. He's done a phenomenal job with these injuries. The fact that Mac Jones' reclamation project comes in and plays well, helps him win a couple games. The fact that Purdy looks comfortable. Now, he's also at times an enigma. He can be a very frustrating quarterback. Go to the game a couple weeks ago against Carolina. Bad conditions, turnover after turnover after turnover after turnover. That was a horrible game to watch. But you know what? They still won the game 20-9, in spite of the fact that he threw 3 picks. You get Purdy going 25 of 34 for 296, 4 or 5 touchdowns. Hell, you'll take 25 of 33 for 288, a couple touchdowns, and not turn the ball over. And since that game, he's thrown 9 touchdowns and 1 pick. And the offensive line is also keeping him upright. They've got weapons. They can be a sleeper team and a dark horse. They can. Do not sleep on the 49ers coming out of the NFC. Imagine the 49ers in Seattle in an NFC championship. Somebody just beeping me at the gas station and said, Broncos country, let's ride. Let's go. Well, hold on a second. How would they know? Do you have like a Bronco ball sticker? Do you have like a Elway fathead, with you as a passenger? How do they know? Is it plastered anywhere that says Broncos country? Let's ride? Because I'm going to call you out on that. Unless you have me locked in on the app loud enough where the guys that are just trying to pass you can hear, which is good. We just gained some new listeners. 19 with Jimmy G were built like that. Super defense, trouble scoring. It eventually catches up to you. Yeah, but also in that Super Bowl, he also missed a couple throws, and it was right there for you. I'll go out on a limb and say if Panthers get in, they win a wild card game, no matter who it is. Ooh, Scotty boy coming with a little, wow. Yes, he did. Yeah, he did. That kept the drive alive. That was Chris Jones. That was brutal, by the way. He's had a very forgetful season, Chris Jones, right? If you go back to some of the boneheaded plays that he made earlier in the season and the lack of effort in a couple of the games. But yeah, you're right. He jumped. And that was actually, so I don't believe, it was that same drive, was it? I believe it was. Yeah, 4th and 2, he jumped. Yep, that was the infraction. Then it was 3rd and 1 where Bo Nix had the touchdown toss. So correct, yes. So they got the infraction. They got the benefit of the penalty and the fresh set of downs. But again, I still got to give Bo Nix credit, right? I mean, efficient. You just don't want him turning the football over. That you just can't have that. And I think at times he is kind of a hit or miss quarterback. You know, he makes mistakes when the pocket kind of collapses. I'm not going to say he panics, but there are some throws like last week. I think it was a 3rd or 4th down throw. They weren't going to win that game. They could have made it a little interesting late, but he had the back right across the middle and decided to go out in the flat. And that's when he threw a pick or he just overshot the receiver. But I like Bo Nix. I don't know how much I'm trusting Sean Payton, but I'm going to have to hope and suspect their defense carries them through the playoffs. I have a question about that play. He got back and set, then the Broncos O-line moved to induce the neutral zone infraction. Remember, he moved his head up. As soon as he did that, the ball was already snapped. Then he got back. It's a quick snap, like a quick count. We're getting him the jump. Once you do that, it's different. It's different with the O-line. If the O-line first, while everyone's set, rocks his head back, that's always going to be a penalty on offensive line. But he didn't set. I don't believe he set. He got back, but the ball, it was like a bang, bang, and the ball was snapped. And you're always going to get the call. You're always going to get it. It was so, like when I say he jumped off sides, it was an easy, I thought it was an easy call. I think back in the day, you, it's not a, Chris Jones got to know better. It's 4th and 2 with the ball on the 9, right? If you actually think about it, go back and watch. I think it was RJ Harvey. He had the cadence and it drew Chris Jones offsides. He drew him offsides. But that play kind of encapsulates the Kansas City Chiefs season. It just really does. It encapsulates their entire season. Years ago, you can jump and reset, and I think they would give you the benefit of the doubt. But once I saw where the cadence was set, he jumped, tried to shoot back, and then they snapped the ball like bang, bang. I thought it was a little bang, bang. No, the O-line didn't react. No, I thought it was kind of a bang, bang. No, you know what I mean. Stop it. No, it wasn't a mistake. He jumped off sides. Bronco logo on the back of the Jeep and a Bronco ball hat. I have to pull this up. Hold on a second. I thought he jumped and he moved. Hold on a second. Let me see. All right, here we go. No. I'm watching it right now. You're right. It wasn't. I apologize. So you saw the cadence? No, because it was so egregious when he jumped. Yeah, you were going to get the call no matter what. Denver was going to get the call, period. And here's the other interesting part. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that was the only flag for Kansas City all night long. Was that correct? Q like the Warriors are the Chiefs an aging dynasty. Does Patrick Mahomes have enough magic to save them again, especially with the knee? I think they're going to struggle again next year. Patrick Mahomes is not going to be 100%. He's not. That team's getting older. Jones is getting older. Linebackers getting older. They can't run the football. They can't. Kareem Hunt's washed. Pacheco, you know, he's an average back, if anything. I want to watch this play one more time. I understand what you're saying, man. So you're saying Jones moves, then the lineman moves right away, but the ball wasn't snapped. So yeah, I misspoke when I said bang, bang. But every time you're going to get, when you draw them off like that, That's going to be it. And remember, too, the referee came in quickly and they blew the whistle dead. That's another thing. So you knew the flag was going to get thrown right there. I think next year, you're going to see the same type of season by Kansas City. I really do. I really do. You're going to see Kansas City probably win 7 or 8 games next season. They have to go out and get another quarterback. They have to, because the backup in Kansas City, I mean, look, you never want to derail a season when your quarterback goes down. So you have to have a viable option as a backup. It worked out for San Francisco. Purdy gets banged up. You have a veteran that's played in a handful of games in Mac Jones, understands the system, played within himself, and they didn't miss a beat. And Mac Jones is going to have a lot of eyeballs on him in the offseason. Kansas City, you're not going to be able to get away with an undrafted free agent. You're not going to get away with a Gardner Minshew. You have to have a viable option as a backup. You really do. You have to. And I'm not going to suggest that they're going to draft a quarterback, but don't expect Patrick Mahomes to come out next year and throw for 5,000 yards and 35, 40 touchdowns. It's not going to happen. It really isn't. And again, what also, what we fail to realize sometimes too is that, think about when Kansas City was at their best. When Kansas City was really at their best, they were a younger team. They had an offensive line. They were never really a team that had to deal with injuries. They just, not like San Francisco, not like Baltimore. When they were at their best, when we're talking about winning their 12, their 13 games, hosting AFC championships, getting to the Super Bowl. Last year, they were flawed. Kansas City was a flawed team last year. Everyone sat there and said, well, it's Patrick Mahomes, it's Kelsey, it's the mystique. And if you guys recall, what did we keep talking about? Well, they're really not blowing anyone away. They're just finding a way. They beat the Chargers by 2 and the Raiders by 2 and Carolina by 3. Remember that? And then obviously they get into the playoffs. Houston played them well. Buffalo played them well. They were leaking oil. And then the Eagles absolutely dominated them. And it didn't help them this year when your leading rusher was your quarterback. They need an every down back. They don't have it. It's not Hunt and it's not Pacheco. It's not. Kelsey's getting older. Kelsey's probably going to go the Strahan route. They finish out the season next week. It's January, February, March, right around the draft. Make a decision. What are you going to do? And then we'll know. He's an emotional guy. He's not going to sit there and say, I'm retiring next week. He's not going to do that. He's going to take time. He's probably going to announce it on his pod, whether he's coming back for another season. He'll probably get input and insight from his brother, Jason Kelsey, who went through the same thing. But Travis Kelce, the reality is he's 36 years old. The reality is, as tough as a tight end as he's been, his production has dropped over the last several seasons. He's that safety valve on third down when Mahomes has to get bailed out. But the days of Travis Kelce being the first option in that offense are long gone. It's long gone. They're going to rebuild. They're going to retool, if that makes sense. And when I say rebuild, I'm not talking about what the Jets have to do, what the Giants have to do, what the Titans have to do, what the Raiders have to do, what Cleveland. Just kind of rebuild the infrastructure, right? Andy Reid's not getting any younger. Mahomes isn't getting any younger. You got to deal with some headaches on that team. Whether it was a guy like Rice, you got Worthy. They've got some weapons. But the AFC is younger. They are getting hungrier. The Kareem Hunts, the Pachecos, that's not going to get it done. It's not. Can you rely on Rashee Rice? Can you rely on him for 17 games? Can you rely on this kid for 17 games to not get in trouble, not get suspended, not get hurt? So no, I think next year they're going to struggle again. Keep it 100, Q. Are you retiring into the sunset with Swift or running it back one more season with KC? I think this is just me. When you have a bad season like this, the competitor in you, and remember, he's very tight with Patrick Mahomes. They're like best friends. And when Patrick Mahomes goes down, when your foxhole brother goes down, that can take a lot out of you, right? You know, I'm trying to run the same route. I'm trying to play hard. I'm trying to get open. I know I'm going to get masked. I know I'm going to get doubled, but now I got to rely on a Gardner Minshew or a kid I don't have a rapport with. That gets frustrating because you're thinking about your friend. You're thinking about your brother in arms. You're thinking about your franchise quarterback. You're thinking about the quarterback that got you the ball how many times in his career to amass 70 something touchdowns, almost 13,000 yards, Pro Bowl, All Pro, championship, Super Bowl wins, all these accolades. Now you don't have them. So it's like you're missing part of your heart, right? It's kind of cut in half. So they will talk. My gut tells me, you know, Kelsey is such a competitive guy, such a fiery guy. I don't believe he wants to go out like this. Now, he hasn't sustained a major injury like Patrick Mahomes. Or, you know, I'll give you a perfect example, like a Zach Ertz, who was trying to have that second arc of his career with Washington, Arizona, after all those years with the Philadelphia Eagles. You know, that's a tough injury. That's hard to respond to and come back from. But I think Kelsey is such a competitor. I also think he's such an emotional guy. He wears his emotions on his sleeve. I think he's, you know, he will obviously contemplate, no doubt, you know, and obviously now his situation is totally different with Taylor Swift, and they don't need to get up and work another day for the next, you know, 10 lifetimes. They just don't. But it's hard for me to imagine a guy going out like that, especially knowing when one of your best friends is laid up and you want to try to run it back one more time, right? You believe you have one more bullet left in the chamber. Now, it's also, I think also a lot of it has to do with understanding the landscape of the NFL and understanding your place within that organization. You're not going to be the focal point. You're just not. You're not. And is that something we know? He's fiery when he doesn't get the football? What does he do? You know, he turns into a diva. He bitches, whines, complains, and moans too. Does he not? Defense was pretty damn good when they were at their best. Their defense was really good. Their run defense was exceptional. Wide receivers aren't really great. Rice has game, but I think there are a lot of 2 and 3s and 4s at wide receiver. Kelsey is still usable, though, if he stays. He's usable, but he is not going to be that top option. The days of 12 for a buck 36 and 2 touchdowns are gone. They're gone. Look at the AFC right now. Look at the AFC. You know, and it leads me to my Ravens comment. You know, Sal's the Ravens fan and agrees with me. He said there's absolutely no way Lamar Jackson should not be playing. So you've got the reports that Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson, there's a rift. You got reports that Jackson's at a crossroads within that Baltimore franchise and that Baltimore organization. And now your back hurts and you don't want to play? I'm sorry, man. You got too much at stake. You got to be out there. You got to be out there, man. You got too much at stake right now. You have a Packers team that already clinched a playoff spot. They're really not incentivized. Jordan Love, they're going to hold him out because of the concussion. Malik Willis is going to get the start. That's a winnable game. And then you got the Steelers. Last time I checked, the Ravens are so mathematically alive. But that's a referendum on Lamar Jackson's career. Can you imagine if Lamar Jackson decides my back hurts? I'm not going to play in week 17. I'm not going to play in week 18. The conversation in February will be, are the Baltimore Ravens going to trade Lamar Jackson? That will be the conversation if he does not play. And if he plays and he plays poorly, unfortunately, that conversation is going to come afloat again. It's like damned if you do, damned if you don't. But I'd rather go out banged up that know that I'm trying to fight with you. I don't want to be labeled soft. And that's what they're labeling Lamar Jackson. They're killing him in Baltimore. They're absolutely killing him. You got a head coach in Harbaugh, 18 seasons, 11 playoff appearances, a ton of AFC North wins. I got people telling me he's a glorified special teams coach. Are you kidding me? The guy won 170 games in his career. He's blown leads, but Lamar Jackson hasn't helped his cause. We put so much onus, right? We give so much love. We always give the flowers to the quarterbacks. And then we piss on them when they play poorly. There's no in between. Okay. Well, you also have to acknowledge a head coach that won 170 games in the NFL. That's hard to do. Very hard to do. What's up with Lamar and the Ravens? That's crazy when you are a two-time MVP. Yes. Yeah. And you're even having to answer or contemplate that. He's doubtful right now. And I'm telling you, he missed practice. You're talking about a two-time MVP. A two-time MVP. They are killing him in Baltimore because right now he's at a crossroads in his career. Quarterbacks want to feel wanted. They want to feel appreciated. Even try to give you the again, you're by the way, Kyle Whittingham has agreed to a 5-year deal to become the next head coach of Michigan, according to the mothership. But quarterbacks always want to feel loved. They want to feel appreciated. They also want to know you can't win without me. Okay, so the knock on Lamar Jackson throughout the course of his career has been what? He's injury prone, availability. Yet, when he plays, he's brilliant at times. Last year, you could have made the case he was MVP of the NFL. They gave it to Josh Allen based on the last couple games. Superman goes in there, boom, boom, boom. Here we go. Lamar Jackson is a good quarterback. He's a very good quarterback. Got to win a playoff game, got to win playoff games, got to have a deep run, but he also has to be available. Now, because he's dealing with this back injury and he's listed as doubtful, and you've got an opportunity to get to the playoffs, win the AFC North, the question marks are going to be, well, how committed is Lamar Jackson? How committed is Lamar Jackson? Are you hurt or are you injured? If you're hurt, you should be out there. If you're injured, that's a different story. They need him out there. They are on the brink of elimination. They have to beat Green Bay with no Jordan Love, and then they need Cleveland of all teams to do them a solid and beat Pittsburgh. And that sets the stage for week 18. If I'm Lamar Jackson, shoot me up. I got to be out there because the last thing I want, what happens if Pittsburgh loses and I'm not out there? It's like, well, hold on a second. Now all of a sudden you're ready. No, no, I need you Saturday, man. Period. I need you Saturday. You have to be out there. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. None. 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 Gotta be out there. Gotta be out there. Gotta be out there. Period. I would trade Hurts for Jackson. I think the problem in Baltimore with the QB and the head coach is one thinks he can fly and the other thinks they're invincible. Ah, listen. I mean, if you're going Steven Seagal, we both know they were both wrong, right? I mean, we both know that. Uh, I can understand the back pain he has been carrying a franchise. Haha, very well done. Yeah, but you have a great back in Derrick Henry where the head coach decides to only give him 5 carries in the second half. They're killing him in Baltimore right now. They are absolutely killing him because they want him out there. It's a franchise quarterback, man. You figure out a way to get out there and play. To me, I don't even think it's up for discussion. That's just it. I told you guys, listen, Parcells say it all the time. You hurt, you injured. All right, 5 o'clock, 16 bucks, 60 play. We welcome in our good friend John Bueller from Fansided, kind enough to join us for a couple moments. I hope Santa didn't leave anything in your of note, I should say, in your stockings. Obviously, I'm sure you were probably good and not naughty. I know my listeners didn't get a lot of gifts, and there's a reason why. But how are you, my friend?
Pretty good. My dad's dog almost knocked over the miniature tree with his tail, so we had to move that
I got you.
yesterday.
Yeah, listen, it's all about finding the right spot. I know you were just hanging out in the queue room over there. Let's talk a little NFL to start things off. But I did mention, the playoff scenario for the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson. Where are you kind of at with Lamar Jackson, Harbaugh? Is there a crossroads? Can you see a scenario where Baltimore decides to either move on from Harbaugh or figure out a way to trade Lamar Jackson, or neither?
They're in a tough spot right now. I mean, the division's not been good by any stretch of the imagination. The Ravens get off to that terrible start to the year, and then you've got what 2 weeks left, where Pittsburgh is going to fall ass backwards into winning the division unless you have something to say about it. If I'm Baltimore, look, I said this beforehand, like if it doesn't happen this year for either Baltimore or Buffalo, it's never happening with its current iteration. It looks like it could potentially happen for Buffalo, but at this point, you probably have to move on from John Harbaugh. And the worst part about that is this is the worst coaching carousel I've seen in a long time. I don't know where you go. Do you just promote Todd Monken from within? Because I know he was kind of getting tied to the Michigan job. It looks like it's going to go to Kyle Whittingham.
Right.
But at that point, how much of a reset it is there. But also, if you're Lamar Jackson, like you're on a Hall of Fame trajectory, you're one of the most dynamic players of all time. This is the time of year where you just have to figure out and just gut through it. Like we're all like,
Suck it up.
it's the end of the year. It's been tough for everybody, man. And like, you just got to figure this out. Like, you can't be like Clark Griswold's family coming to Greater Chicago for 10 days before Christmas, man.
Right. The Harbaugh, I've had people get on me and basically say Harbaugh is not a good head coach. And I'm like, listen, the guy's won a lot of playoff games. They win a lot of divisions. Yes, he won a Super Bowl, only one. I can make the same argument, with the McCarthys and the Tomlins and whatever, and the shelf life. The guy's won 179 games, not including the playoffs. Um, he'll land on his feet.
Oh, yeah.
I feel as though Harbaugh and the Hardballs, they are very demanding. And I'm wondering if this is kind of the rumblings. Hey, man, we need you out there. We need you out there. And Lamar Jackson's thinking to himself, no, I don't want to be out there. I don't want to be out there. Like, you don't want to get labeled as not being a team player. And you certainly don't want to be labeled as soft. And to your point about the AFC, listen, I don't believe Baltimore has the makeup to make a deep run, but it goes a long way to that fan base and your teammates to show, yeah, I'm going to battle. I'm going to battle. And even if Pittsburgh beats Cleveland and we're mathematically out of it, at least you can count on me. And that's where I think some of the fan base and the frustration of Baltimore kind of lies within, because they want him out there. And then if you're a franchise quarterback and you decide, I don't want to be out there, like, quarterbacks are fighting, scratching, clawing, man. They want to be out there. And the sentiment is that Lamar Jackson doesn't want to be out there.
It's always funny sometimes in sports, like you'll have like a dynastic run, but the one year you win your championships when you least expect it. We always talk about that with like Lute Olson and like the Miles Simon, like Arizona Wildcats way back in the day. I mean, the 21 Braves kind of came out of nowhere. You just got to be ready because look, even if you're like, the fourth seed or maybe the sixth, seventh seed, again, I don't know the AFC playoff picture like the back of my hand, but it's a new season. And, anybody can come out. I mean, we've seen six seeds with the Super Bowl before. This isn't out of the realm of possibility, but you're also going back to this with like, you don't want to be labeled as soft. Like Baltimore's culture since they've been rebranded from the Browns has been tough, smart, team first football. And if you're not checking all three of those boxes, it's very easy for the great people of Baltimore and the surrounding Maryland area to turn on you.
Yeah. Remember too, like, look around with the seating. So, for instance, that Houston Chargers game, it's huge because the winner has a good shot of being the top wild card team in the AFC, if not a division champ, right? So, think about it. I have a wild card round matchup against a worst division champion, which is probably either going to be who? Pittsburgh
Or
or
Baltimore.
Baltimore. So there's a lot at stake. And you brought up an interesting point. The way the AFC has broken this season, no Kansas City, perhaps no Baltimore, Lamar Jackson. Buffalo is still Buffalo, but then you get a Denver team that has to grind it out last night. You have a New England team, like a Denver team with a young quarterback. You got a Houston team with a young quarterback and a good defense. You have a Jacksonville team that, okay, is Trevor Lawrence kind of in the Sam Darnold? Do I trust him in a big spot kind of situation? And then there's Buffalo with Josh Allen. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to keep belaboring the point. I have Denver winning it all, but I'll stick that to the side for a second. If you're the Buffalo Bills, it's there for you, is my point.
Yeah, because there's going to be untrodden territory for teams out there who, we thought at the beginning of the year, could be vying for a playoff spot in some way, shape, or form. Like, you were higher on Denver than I was, but I'm like, yeah, so that's a playoff caliber team. Chargers as well. We both kind of thought, okay, Houston, Jacksonville will kind of be in the mix of that in the AFC South, and they're all kind of there. But like, if you have like I don't know if they're going to win the division, but like, you're going up against a bunch of teams who are going to have to win like 3 games in a row to play in the AFC Championship game. Like, yeah, it's a tall ask, and you've been to this stage a couple of times before. If you're Buffalo, and at that point, like your postseason experience has to matter here because, I mean, if not now, when, Rich?
That's the sentiment of everyone, and then you start to get in the conversation: can you win with Josh Allen, right? Because if we're having the Lamar Jackson conversation, you got to have the Josh Allen conversation, right? And I'm sure in Jacksonville, they're looking at Trevor Lawrence. Are you Sam Darnold? Like, when I need you the most come playoff time, can you get it done? Aaron Rodgers has shown he can do it, but Aaron Rodgers is not Aaron Rodgers of 6-7 years ago. Denver, I watch Denver. I like Bo Nix. Peyton drives me crazy. That defense is really good. I needed them to stub their toe because we were asking them to win 17 straight. They stubbed their toe last week against Jacksonville, and they got past Kansas City. So between Denver, New England, and let's say Jacksonville, who do you trust the most in the playoffs?
In a very weird way, I trust Jacksonville.
Really?
Because I think Liam Cohen's, I was down on him as a head coach here. I thought that it wasn't going to work, but I think there's a little bit more talent across, all 3 phases in Jacksonville, maybe more so than in New England right now. And obviously that's going to be more like on Drake May and Mike Vrabel to really kind of coach it up there. And we all know, like, Sean Payton, he had that one Super Bowl run there with the Saints, but there was a lot of getting cute there with him for a very long time. And again, I have nothing positive to say about the Saints. Plus, with the Broncos, if you're like the top seed or 1 or 2, like, again, this is untrodden territory. This is you made the playoffs last year, didn't make it the decade prior. There's been some guys there with Jacksonville who've been around kind of with some decent teams. I also think the fact that you have to play with your pedal to the metal because Houston's right there on your tail. Also, you beat Denver recently. I think that Jacksonville's played in like 3 AFC championships in their short history. If Buffalo doesn't have their stuff together, maybe they're going to San Francisco.
I feel as though are we overlooking the Chargers?
We might be a little bit. I mean, the big thing for me is I'm not the biggest Herbert guy out there, but there's got to be a quarterback who can be a separator and an elevator of talent. We know that Josh Allen could probably do that in this field. He's been MVP. This is the time to shine for Justin Herbert. Go win some playoff games, man.
No, listen, that's a very fair point because it almost goes into line with the Trevor Lawrence conversation, right? Because I think Herbert's in his 7th year already. I mean, he puts up Dan Fouts numbers, go figure, but Phillip Rivers numbers, but you also have to win a couple playoff games. Sound on X chimes in Q. You actually were talking about Harbaugh being on the hot seat going into the season. I think if they miss the playoffs and Jackson doesn't play, he's going to get fired. Man. That is just, it's crazy to think about. Michael says, John, you should trust Broncos country in the playoffs. It's does Sean Payton? Do you kind of look at Sean Payton? You scratch. They lost a lot of playoff games too, like in horrible fashion, right? Do you think he really trusts Bo Nix to the fullest?
Bo Nix is a lot more talented than we give him credit for. I think this is kind of a control thing for Sean Payton because he couldn't control Russell Wilson. Bo Nix is kind of young, more impressionable. He played at the impressionable factory that is the University of Oregon. That's why Oregon's not winning the national championship. Anyway, I feel like if it goes according to plan, Sean Payton can control this, win multiple playoff games, could potentially win the Super Bowl. That wouldn't shock me. The team plays very cohesively. But when they gotta when it hits the fan, they gotta scheme it up and they gotta ad lib a little bit. I'm very dubious of Sean Payton trusting Bo Nix to do it. And at the end of the day, that's where my trepidation comes up.
And those are all very fair and valid points. I think the NFC, when you look at Seattle, the Rams, the 49ers, the 49ers, they're starting to kind of be that dark horse coming up the rear, right? All right, here we go. Offense is starting to click, get some players back. Right now, the Eagles and the Rams would be locked in. The Eagles really can't move. They would be the 3 seed. They would host the Rams. I still believe the Rams can go into Philly and beat the Philadelphia Eagles. But let me ask you this. We're talking about the quarterbacks in the AFC. Out of the NFC as it stands right now, I feel as though it's a mixed bag, man, right? We already know what Jalen Hurts has done. Purdy has been hurt in some big spots, right? Jordan Love concussed. We want to see him back in the playoffs. Played very well a couple of years ago when they ran the ball exceptionally well against Dallas. Bryce Young, potentially young quarterback. Baker Mayfield at Tampa Bay gets in. Caleb Williams. Like right now, if you kind of handicap, all right, late in the game, fourth quarter, NFC playoffs, let me take this quarterback, right? Down 6, 80 yards to go. Who's it going to be?
Matthew Stafford. Not even close.
Yeah, still.
Jalen Hurts would probably be like a close second there too. I feel like the experience, again, it's a new setting. Baker Mayfield, I would trust a little bit too. I think the Bucks are kind of broken right now a little bit. The people in Tampa are pretty down on Todd Bowles and this regime here. And again, I don't really know how. Maybe Darnold could do it. Maybe he's kind of gotten rid of some of those ghosts there. Again, you mentioned a good thing with Purdy. He gets hurt. It doesn't show up in big spots. Don't really trust Kyle Shanahan in a Super Bowl. Don't trust Matt LaFleur in an NFC Championship game. So maybe the combination of Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford intrigues me. Or just to spite everybody, it could be Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts all over again. Let's go.
Yeah, please don't. By the way, Stafford and McVay, they're on the same sheet of music.
Mm-hmm.
I think Matthew Stafford will wrap up the MVP this weekend because they play Atlanta, correct?
They play Atlanta here on Monday Night Football. They're like an 8.5 point favorite. They're going to win. I think Atlanta might cover because Raheem Morris, Zach Robinson. Raheem Morris seems to coach pretty well against former employers, whether that's Tampa or Washington or the Rams. But I just think the Falcons are going to have a hard time covering up Nakua and everything like that.
John will not have faith in San Fran. He's still not over the 17 debacle in Atlanta.
49ers haven't won a Super Bowl since I could read. So it's like, I don't know, like the 49ers at some point too, like this is another opportunity. Like, we mentioned with Buffalo, like you got to take advantage of the situation at hand. Like this is, I wouldn't be surprised if San Francisco's like the hot team and it's like, we got a Buffalo San Francisco Super Bowl, but they gotta lock in here and kind of make it happen because that Brock Purdy contract kicks in next year, man.
How do you explain the Lions winning 15 games last year? Their offense was unbelievable. We already knew their defense was going to give up points here and there. We know Dan Campbell is such an aggressive head coach. But then, season on the line, you're going against an undrafted kid I've never even heard of, and Jared Goff stinks up the game. No-show against Minnesota. Now, you want to tell me Brian Flores and his defense? Minnesota's defense is good, but we criticized Lamar Jackson's, the Josh Allen's. Well, here's Jared Goff. Like, how do you explain to me how they've had such a drop-off from winning 15 games last season? Or did Washington break them in the playoffs?
It's coaching attrition. I think when you lose two special coordinators like you had with Ben Johnson to the Bears and Aaron Glenn to the Jets, you're asking people to backfill Maybe Kelvin Shepard's going to be a good defensive coordinator. Didn't look like John Morton's been good. I think Danny Campbell's been calling plays, and I never thought of him as a play caller dating back to his days, with like the Saints or the Dolphins. Like that's Dan Campbell is the ultimate CEO type, and in the NFL, you can be that, but when it hits the fan, you got to be able to drop some plays. You got to be able to be like, okay, we got to make this happen. That's why I would always trust like McVay in a spot like this or Andy Reid in a spot like
Mm.
this. Maybe I don't know if it with the defensive side, maybe Vrabel was kind of cut from that cloth too. Belichick was. So this was always going to be tough for the Lions to overcome losing those coaches. I kind of was kind of shocked that they were out of the postseason with 2 weeks left, but I did not expect the Bears to be this good.
Is Travis Kelce coming back?
No, no.
See, part of me thinks he hates the way the season went and losing Mahomes, but you think he's mentally checked out. You think he's just done.
He's my age, and he's not about the contact anymore. I think he's played 2 years longer than his brother. He's 2 years younger, kind of matched them there. They'll both get in the Hall of Fame relatively the same time. Also, I think he's getting married this summer and everything like that. Your fiance is worth so much more than you and everything like that.
Said that too. That's true.
You're on the Mount Rushmore of tight ends of all time. You've got a promising, lucrative career in the media. We know the Chiefs are going to reset here a little bit. I know it didn't end the way that he wanted to, but like this is it's been an incredible career for him. I think that like just to mentally to reignite this again, it may be a year by year process here, but I think he's done.
Yeah, that would be something if he doesn't get 10 receiving yards and he's 10 yards shy of 13,000 for his career next week. They got to figure out a way to force feed him the football. My whole thought was that he'll contemplate, he'll talk to Jason, he'll talk to the family, talk to the missus, we'll figure it out, because I don't think are you retiring into the sunset with Swift or running it back? Go Broncos. I think he's going to take his time, and I believe when you lose a good friend and a teammate like that with the injury, there's this sentiment of, man, we got one more. You always think you got one more left, but I also think they're going to struggle next year too.
I would venture to guess Patrick Mahomes is going to be in his wedding party. So like they got to do all of that stuff here, and maybe you come back one more time here. But then there's the other thing. Again, this is a really bad coaching cycle, and does Matt Nagy get an opportunity here? I don't think he should coach again. I don't know. It just seems like it went out with a whimper here, and it would have been cool if he would have rode off after beating the Eagles a couple of years ago. But that wasn't in the cards
Because you
here.
want to try it again. You want to run it back one more time. Like that's, speaking of the Eagles, by the way, now they're pretty much going to be locked in the 3 seed. They won the NFC East. Do you foresee a scenario where, okay, we think we got the offense in gear, depending upon what happens in probably horrible weather in Buffalo, right? Josh Allen's never beaten the Eagles, if that whatever that means. But point is, what if their offense struggles a little bit? Are they more inclined to start their starters to close out the season, knowing they have nothing to play for against Washington?
I think like look, I think Sirianni, because you're the reigning Super Bowl champions, you're given the benefit of the doubt. But I do think though, because you're not going to have like a bye here, you don't want to enter the postseason, new season with things that are discombobulated, and Washington is the epitome of discombobulated right now. Maybe you get a couple easy completions. Maybe treat it like a preseason game. And look, people be like, "Oh, injuries or whatever." But like football is a game of injury. It's going to happen. You have to play hard. I just think if you're the Eagles as a 3 seed, you can't go in there with absolutely no momentum. You got to have something. And even if you are locked in, again, maybe the analytics say don't do it, but it'd be very hard to ignite that versus what the third best team in the NFC West. Like you'd have to host like the LA Rams. Yeah,
Right.
that Rams have kind of been my pick to win the Super Bowl last couple of weeks.
Right.
So they gave you a really close game a year ago in the snow.
That's right. That's right. And they were blocked a field goal away from winning earlier in the season. How worried should I be that the Giants actually win this weekend?
Who are they playing this weekend? They're
The
playing
Raiders and no Crosby.
God.
I need Geno Smith to light them up, or I need Genti to run the football 35 times because I'm okay with one or two when it comes to the draft pick, but I really want the, the number one overall draft pick because from what I'm hearing and reading, it seems as though you can get a nice little king's ransom back for that pick, whether it's going to be the kid from Oregon or it's going to be Mendoza.
Yeah, I think the best player available that's not a quarterback might be Priest from Ohio State, like the defensive player. So maybe that's something. But again, we were saying like everything like Abdul Carter was campus, and this has been a frustrating first year for him for the Giants. I think that like look, the Raiders need a quarterback. Geno Smith's cooked, and
Yeah, but I'm okay. Let him marinate one game. Like to me, what's if the Giants had the one or two pick, great. But I wonderful. Even if they won the game, I would be pissed. But number one, I think you can get a haul back, is what I'm saying. So like the Jets need a quarterback. Cleveland might need a quarterback. The Raiders are going to need a quarterback. Like, you know, you're sitting there, Giants are top overall pick come April. You might be able to get multiple first round picks, and a couple second round picks for that top spot.
yeah, I would say you want to have the number one pick. I still think y'all might be able to beat the Raiders. I think that they're completely sunken ship right now, unfortunately.
Oh man, you know what? Maybe this is the week Kafka really gets conservative, and they just have Jackson Dart just hand it off like 20 times, like they did the other day to start the game against Minnesota. Any instant reaction here on Michigan's hire?
Kyle Whittingham, man, they fell ass backwards into the best hire they could make. Like this is it's kind of similar with Penn State getting Matt Campbell. Like they went all the way around. They actually ended up with a guy that I thought would make a lot of sense here. Look, it all seems like Whittingham is going to take over here January 1 after Utah plays their bowl game and everything like that. He's not going to tear away Morgan Scalley's defensive staff, the coach in waiting. So I think he's going to poach people from his alma mater of BYU, bring them to Michigan. Look, if you're Michigan, you had to basically you got to get completely removed from the Jim Harbaugh era, just how because Jim Harbaugh is never going to be allowed to coach in college football again because of his show cause.
Right, right.
Shermore, probably not. The Matt Weiss thing was awful. Maybe you could have tried for a Jesse Minter, but he's going to be an NFL head coach next
Correct.
year.
Correct.
And I mean, the only other guy you could have gone for Harbaugh adjacent is Todd Monken here, which I thought, he's a great offensive mind. I loved him at Georgia. I thought he'd be a little bit better at Baltimore, but this is a hire that even though Whittingham is like 66, this is gonna be like a breath of fresh air for him. And I think because he's been at Utah for like 20 years,
21 years.
yeah, even more so that because he was on Urban Meyer's staff with like Dan Mullen way back in the day. It'll work out well because Utah had kind of played like Michigan light in previous years. You get a little bit better resources there. You get a good, wholesome guy to come in here and help Michigan kind of eradicate some of the nonsense that's been plaguing them. It'll probably cost you Bryce Underwood, but at the same time, you can get somebody good out of the portal. I think kids know who Kyle Whittingham is.
Yeah, I think it was not only a good hire / safe hire, but you're right. You had to just separate yourself from anyone that had anything to do with Harbaugh. Now, obviously, the Moore thing wasn't under Harbaugh watch,
No.
but guilt by association, and you have to have a clean sweep. Lastly, before I let you get out of here, college football playoffs. You know, I'm looking at these games. Miami, Ohio State. What do we got? Michigan. No, that's I'm sorry. Miami, Ohio State. You have Oregon, Texas Tech is Thursday, January 1st. We've got plenty of time. Maybe we'll do something next week on that. Alabama, Indiana. How about Miami, Ohio State? What is that? That's this weekend, correct?
Yeah, that's the Cotton Bowl. That's going to be on New Year's Eve. I think maybe like 7:30 Eastern kick. Miami's talented enough to kind of keep pace with Ohio State. So I'm not going to say that they're going to upset Ohio State here, but Ohio State's not really been as challenged as much as you would think this year. Miami had to kind of claw and scratch its way in there. They won a really ugly game there down in College Station versus A&M. Really windy game. Really not a fun game to watch at all. But Miami's kind of playing with house money here, and if they were to win, they might play Carson Beck's former team, Georgia, in the Fiesta Bowl, assuming Georgia gets past Ole Miss for the
Ole
second time.
Miss. And then
Yeah.
you got Alabama, Indiana.
Hmm.
Indiana's laying 6.5, and then Oregon against Texas Tech. Texas Tech is a 3-point dog in that one.
Yeah. Indiana and Alabama, it's kind of crazy. Like we're giving Alabama a little more respect, but if it's just because of what the program is or used to be, and Indiana's a newcomer, um, I love Ty Simpson as a player. He plays really hard. They have no running game whatsoever there, and in Tuscaloosa, that's why Mike McDonald got rid of Ryan Grubb after 1 year. Couldn't run the ball at Seattle. I'll give Alabama a shot. Indiana's probably going to win, and then I like Georgia a lot over Ole Miss just because Pete Golding's is that's a second game coaching versus Kirby Smart, and you could really flip a coin there with Texas Tech, Oregon. I think Oregon's maybe chomping at the bit a little bit more, but I could see that game going either way.
And then I'm sure you're going to go college football heavy with the pod this week, and obviously preview your Falcons maybe getting smacked on Monday night.
Yeah, probably going to get smacked and to finish a good old Arthur Smith 710. It's going to be great for the fourth time in 5 years.
Oh man. Listen, eventually these franchises have to, you would think, have to turn it around. So the NFL, as we know, it's very cynical. A couple wins here and there, you're looking at instead of 6 wins, it could be a 9-win campaign, 10-win. I mean, look, the Giants blew so many games, but I'm happy they did because that means they would have kept Brian Daboll. And
Yeah,
sometimes you gotta, yeah.
yeah. Looking forward to another year with Raheem Morris. Really looking forward to that.
Is he now? You think they're going to retain him? He coming back?
Arthur Blank loves to be schmoozed and pandered, and that's what Raheem Morris is all about.
Wow.
I don't think Zach Robinson can read a coloring book. That's kind of where we're at this point. But again, who are you really going to hire at this point?
Yeah, there's no Ben Johnson out there.
No, like there's Joe Brady, there's Jesse Minter. I mean, Brian Flores might get a job if another one opens up because he's just so overqualified for what he's doing in Minnesota. But there's 2 openings now. There's probably going to be about 5 or 6, and we'll see what happens. I hope your G-men get the best candidate out there.
Listen, just get the loss and lose to the Raiders and lose to Washington, and I'll worry about who the hell the head coach
Yeah.
is going to be. All right, brother, I greatly, greatly appreciate it. We'll see how it plays out next week with the short week and everything, but glad you had a good holiday. Enjoy all the college football and the NFL as well, and your insight is always appreciated. We will do it again next week, John. Thank you so much, bro.
Awesome. Take care. See you next week.
All right, there you have it, my guy, John Bueller from Fanside. Hey, don't forget, we're powered by Fresh Roasted Coffee. 20% off your first purchase. A lot of comments coming in. Got to hit the bottom of the hour break. We'll come back on the other side, and we'll close it out. We'll take up to 6 o'clock straight up. All right, 5:35. We'll take you up to 6. Let me get to more of these comments. Man says, how the Falcons won a Super Bowl since you learned to read. Who's me? Is that a shot on me, Man? I think that's a shot on me. Huh. I'm not too happy about that. But that's okay. I mean, have at it. Take the shots. Not a problem. I don't mind. It's because, you weren't grammatically correct in your comment. There's a lot of typos. All right, let's go through let's go through these games. We talked a little bit about yesterday in the Netflix debacle. I mentioned the Texans and the Chargers. This is a good test, obviously, for the Chargers. They're laying 1.5 at home. Texas defense playing a very high level, very low total in this one, 39.5. Ravens, we'll see if there's going to be Lamar Jackson or not. Green Bay is at home, even with Malik Willis. They're a 4-point favorite, which tells me this game is trending towards Jackson not being available because of the line. Cardinals in Cincinnati. Cincy playing out the string, got a couple wins. They're going to retool. They are laying 7. Steelers and the Browns. Steelers obviously can clinch AFC North with a win. Baltimore lost. Pittsburgh laying 3. Saints and the Titans. Looky but don't touch. Jacksonville against the Colts. I feel bad for the Colts. They were 8-2. After Jones goes down, I told you guys they weren't going to win another football game. The Phillip Rivers experiment is nice, but again, you'll see him 2 more times. That's pretty much going to be it. I can't envision a team sitting there saying I've seen enough from Phillip Rivers at 40 something, 44 years of age to bring him back. It's not happening. It's not. John made a comment that San Fran hasn't won a Super Bowl since he learned how to read. I gotcha. Read the room, right? Or is that on me? Very good, very good. Still waiting on the picks. Well, if you download Back Your Play, which is now on Odyssey, Amazon, and Apple, we've been on friggin' fire. Has anyone else noticed that Luca Brasi just decided to pop out? I'm going through the picks right now. I pretty much have running through the gamut with these picks. And I'm going to give you playoff scenarios. Just how about that? We're going to go through all that. So I'll give you my best 5 after we run through this. Tampa and Miami, we know they're going to try to get rid of Tua. I think Tua comes back because of that contracts and albatross. I do like this game to be a high-scoring game, though, even with a backup. I think Mayfield's going to have some opportunities to throw the ball. Here's a game where if Tampa Bay's up 17-3, Miami's probably going to roll over. Tampa Bay might score 28 in this one. The Pats and the Jets, here's another opportunity. Second half line, watch the movement in this one. Patriots are laying 13.5 against the Jets. Seattle and the Panthers, very compelling game. We'll see if the Panthers, if they're ready to play with the big boys with an opportunity to get into the playoffs. Seattle's laying 7. Tank ball, Giants and the Raiders, no Crosby. The Giants are banged up. I just want to see Genty go off. Give me a Geno Smith game of 25 of 32 for 275 and 3 touchdowns. Eagles and the Bills, the conditions are going to be horrible. This is a Saquon game. Buffalo trying to win the AFC East. Obviously, more pressure on them to get the win. Bears and the 49ers, very good game on Sunday night. The 49ers are a very hot team right now. Do not dismiss them coming out of the NFC. And then you got the Rams and the Falcons. And I do like the Rams laying a number in that one. All right, let me give you these playoff scenarios because there are certain things that are not set that we are going to find out how everything kind of breaks down, right? So if you look at the updated NFC, okay, there are 8 teams for 7 playoff spots. 6 of them are already taken. We know Seattle right now currently is locked in at number 1. Chicago's locked in at number 2. Eagles are number 3. Winner of the NFC South, Carolina, Tampa. Right now, Carolina's locked in number 4. San Fran would be wild card 1, 5 seed. The Rams wild card 2, the 6 seed. Green Bay, by virtue of Detroit's loss, sits at the 7th seed. So they benefit from the Lions' loss because it allowed them to mathematically clinch without even playing a game. So now you can rest Jordan and Love. They will be no worse than the number 7 seed. They can still win the NFC North if they win out and Chicago loses out, which is not unlikely. NFC South up for grabs. The Panthers right now in the driver's seat, but you got a tough ask. You're hosting Seattle at home, and the Bucks take on Miami. Should Carolina lose and Tampa win, we're going to get the flex. My Carolina Panthers, I told you, would make the playoffs. That is a winner-take-all showdown in Week 18. So there you go. Hopefully, we get that game in that scenario, and it's flexed. It'll be a win and in. The NFC, and by the way, why that's important is because the winner is the 4 seed. NFC West, which is the best division of football. There are 3 teams that you can make a case for can win it all. Seattle, the Rams, and the 49ers. Now follow me on this. Seattle can clinch the number 1 seed and division title with a win, plus a Rams loss or tie, plus a 49ers tie. Yeah, you guys are going to be quizzed. It's not impossible. It's highly unlikely. Seattle and the 49ers, they control their own path to the number 1 seed. If both teams win this weekend, Seattle and 49ers will be playing for the number 1 seed and home field advantage throughout the playoffs. If you're a 49ers fan, you're giddy because you realize if you get the top overall seed in the NFC, that's going to be a hell of a game too against Seattle. And that's where the Super Bowl is, host site. If you're Seattle, you're like, no. We don't want to have to worry about that. We want to take care of San Francisco. We don't want to have to deal with that kind of nonsense. AFC. So that's your NFC playoff picture. Kind of cut and dry, right? You know, a couple little caveats here and there. Your AFC, updated AFC playoff standings. Bronco Ball, top seed. They're closing in on the top seed in the AFC. The Patriots right now lead the AFC East. They will lose common game tiebreaker to the Broncos. Jacksonville can lock up AFC South. Steelers are right now in the driver's seat for the AFC North. Your wild card, Chargers, Bills, Texans. So right now, the Colts are still mathematically alive, but they're pretty much going to get eliminated this weekend. The Ravens are still mathematically alive, but they need a lot of help. And then we know the teams that are shot. We don't even have to go over the outside looking in kind of nonsense. So it's right there for Denver. It's right there for Denver. And if you think about this, if you take it a step further, the Broncos now, because of the win last night, what did they do? They turned around, they put all the pressure back, not only on New England with that win Thursday night, but now you're going to see how New England plays this one because they found themselves in a very curious position because they had a root for Kansas City. They had a root for Kansas City. Instead, the Broncos win this game 20-13, and right now 13-3, 1 game remaining on their schedule. They've got sole possession of the AFC number 1 seed. Even if the Pats beat the Jets on Sunday to keep pace, the Broncos own the tiebreaker over New England. The Pats still have a realistic path to the number 1 seed. So this is kind of how you break it down, right? So, remaining games. Broncos at the Chargers. Forget about AFC West, pretty much right there for Denver. Patriots 2, Jacksonville 3, Steelers 4, Chargers 5, Bills 6, Texans 7. Broncos lead the West. Patriots lead the East. Jacksonville leads the South, which that's a huge game against the Texans. So you get meaningful football this weekend, and then you have potentially playoff football next weekend for 4 teams because in essence you win and you're in. So a lot is at stake. Again, Q, you told these guys about Broncos and Casey in August. Give yourself a pat on the back. I'm not going to do that, Michael. I'm not. Because I think sometimes if you're just clairvoyant, you're clairvoyant. If I read the room and see it prior to, then that's okay. The fact that you acknowledge that and you appreciate that, and out of all the listeners, you keep going back to that means everything to me. It means everything to me. Garrett over 1.5 sacks. Yes, I believe that's going to happen as well. I really do. Q, I remember you called the Panthers before the season started, but if they play the 49ers wild card, I take back what I said. Panthers win no matter what. Oh, wait. I like the Panthers this year. I thought this is the reason I take some of these dogs or some of these teams that you got to look at the trends sometimes, right? You have to look at how these divisions break down. You guys are smart football fans. You're smart football fans. You know it as much as I do. Teams, it's very hard in the NFL to win football games. It's very hard to maintain a certain level of competitiveness week in and week out, year in and year out. These rosters, shuffling of the rosters, shuffling of the coaching staffs, players get injured. The reason I took Carolina to be a playoff team was pretty simple. They started to protect their quarterback and they were able to run the football. They've changed that culture. The dynamic's totally different. If you look at Bryce Young, he took so many sacks in year number 1. They cut that in half in year number 2, and he's been upright this year. And he's playing like a franchise quarterback. They don't blow you away. They understand their bread and butter. Carolina has an identity. It hasn't always been pretty, but they have an identity. Quarterback doesn't turn the football over, and they run the football. Bryce Young has just 9 picks. He's played very good football. He's only been sacked 25 times. My man Rico is averaging 4.5 yards a carry. They can run the football. They also have Hubbard back there. Young with his legs. That's their identity. Tampa's getting older. I like Baker Mayfield, but again, that team is getting older. You can't rely on some of their wide receivers. They've been banged up over the last several years, i.e., they lost Evans a lot this year. I didn't think he was going to get hurt. Atlanta, I told you, I just didn't have any belief in Penix. And New Orleans, they play hard, but I didn't think they were going to be a competitive team this year. Now, they might have found their quarterback with this young kid, Tyler Show. I don't know. But I just thought if you looked at the schedule, if you looked at Carolina, how they played last year, they play really hard. They really do. Yeah, you're going to have a bump in the road when you're trying to get up there, and you're going to have a couple of bad losses. Their loss to the Saints, that was a bad loss. But go back last year. I know it really doesn't mean anything, but they won 2 out of 3. And a couple of the games that they lost earlier in the season, they were outclassed. And they didn't have Bryce Young. They had Andy Dalton back there because Young was hurt. He started to settle in late in the season, and you had some momentum to build upon it. Denver, the reason I like Denver, some of the offseason acquisitions, I'm a Bo Nix fan. I thought their defense was good. I didn't think it was going to be as great as it was. And the Raiders are bad. The Chargers, I couldn't fully get into. And Kansas City, we just felt was going to take a step back. So I got 1 or 2 right? I got 1 or 2 right, which is not bad, but I also get a lot of them wrong too. Did any eliminated teams make you think that team should have made the playoffs, or is this about right? I think that's a great question. That's a great question. If the Dallas Cowboys actually had a defense, they would be fun to watch. They just can't stop anyone. Their offense is leading the league in what? Yards per game, points per game. They have a very good offense, but their defense is bad. Cincinnati, their defense is bad. The Colts are 8-2, and Daniel Jones goes down, and you notice Taylor has kind of been shut down because there's no threat of a passing game, so they stack the box. Well, I had Washington going to the Super Bowl and representing the NFC, so I missed a boat on that. Jaden Daniels got hurt. They never really found their rhythm this season. They were very, You guys were 100% correct on Washington's defense. You warned me in August they were an old defense, and we saw it. Um, we thought 3 teams would potentially come out of the NFC West. No, I think Chicago's been a pleasant surprise. Minnesota, remember last season, well, when Sam Darnold signed with Seattle, you guys were killing me. And I remember Vince, I kept saying Minnesota is they're gonna wish they re-signed Sam Darnold. They're gonna take a step back. Now their defense has played well. McCarthy's been hurt. He's a young quarterback. I'm not entirely sold on him. Detroit, I'm a little surprised. They won 15 games last year. I thought Detroit would win the NFC North. I thought Chicago would be a fringe playoff team, and I also like Green Bay. So to answer your question, out of all those teams, I would probably say Detroit, if that makes sense. Is it true the Giants are 11 and 136 since the Odell boat trip photo? That's man just trolling me right now. I mean, he knows about that. I don't need to tell him. They're bad. I mean, what I don't understand why all of a sudden I've been building up the 49ers, and this is what happens. You just come out of the you just basically come out of nowhere. I'm giving you good insight. I'm giving you great analysis. What are you trying to check me? Because Michael and Scott are giving me some credit, and now you turn around, you just want to remind me that the Giants stink. Is that what you want to do? They're bad. I mean, what the hell? They won friggin' 2 games this year. That boat trip was 2016. Okay? They were 11 and 5. Since then, 3 wins, 5 wins, 4 wins. So there's 12 right there. 6 wins, 4 wins, 9 wins, 6 wins, 3 wins. So that's 5, 11, 20, 24, 30, 39, 42, including that year, 53. And they've lost. This is bad. The Giants, since 2016, when they lost that wild card game to Green Bay, the boat trip, they have lost 10 or more games. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times. Prior to that, besides 14 and 15, where they were both 6 and 10, the last time they lost 10 games was Eli's rookie season, 6 and 10 in 2004. So I appreciate you bringing that up. I really do. A healthy Washington could have went to the bowl. I don't know. I really don't know. MIA. I don't know. I don't know. I think we might have lost Christina. We might have lost Christina. It's disheartening, but we might have lost her. I don't know what else to say. We might have lost her. Not good. Not good. Q, would you take a prime McNabb or a prime Hertz? That's Eagle 6. I mean, I really hate to say it, but the body of work's already there for Jalen Hurts. I don't know what else to say. The guy's gone to 2 Super Bowls and he's a Super Bowl MVP. I just, Omar chimes in. Another what? Oh, another debacle of a season for my Cowboys, Q. Do you think they're going a different direction with Prescott? Do you think they run it back with Prescott? And obviously their biggest needs are on the defense, but what position we do attack first and foremost? They need consistent edge rushers. They need consistent pass rushers. Their secondary stinks. And, Prescott is a veteran. He's a veteran quarterback. I know people joke when the game's not on the line, he puts up numbers. He wants to play. He wants to finish strong. They paid him a lot of money. He's put up he's put up some good numbers. But Prescott's not going anywhere. That was a 4-year deal in 2024. He's not going anywhere. If you think the Dallas Cowboys are cutting ties with Dak Prescott, they're not. If the Dallas Cowboys won 10 games this year and they actually had a defense, and if they won 10 games, it's because they had a defense, then you can make a case for Dak Prescott also in the MVP conversation. Now, his numbers aren't as gaudy as Drake May. Well, he has thrown more touchdown passes. His numbers aren't as gaudy as Matthew Stafford, but Dak Prescott was in the conversation, league MVP, earlier in the season. The problem with the Dallas Cowboys is their defense is as bad as Cincinnati was last year when Joe Burrow was putting up ridiculous points. I mean, they gave up 37 points to the Giants. They gave up 31 to the Bears. They gave up 40 to Green Bay. They gave up 22 to the Jets. They gave up 30 to Carolina. They gave up 22 to Washington, 44 against Denver. They're bad. They're really bad. 34 against Minnesota, 34 against the Chargers. They're not a good defense. So they need to figure it out. They really do. But they've got weapons. You got Lamb, you got Pickens, you got Williams, you got Prescott, you got Ferguson. I know he's been banged up. If they can figure out what the hell they're doing on their defense, and they lost players this year. They put a lot of players on the IR this year. They lost a cornerback. Obviously, they trade away Parsons. They haven't gotten much from their edge rushers. Fowler hasn't given them anything. Clowney's showing them a little bit. Kenny Clark. Remember the move for Kenny Clark? Kenny Clark really hasn't done much. He's came on of late, but they want Kenny Clark to be that 8, 9, 10 sack guy. And he just hasn't been that guy. So defensively, they gotta figure it out. Can we start a Q chat playoff pick'em pool? I don't even know what the hell that is. Sure, whatever. How do you want to do that? I'm taking McNabb. Ooh, a little dicey. If McNabb was surrounded by Hall of Famers, he'd have a ring too. They also played in a very, very bad NFC East. Right? So Westbrook was an all-pro. Very good running back. They had a pretty decent offensive line. They had a very good defense, right? Owens, Hall of Famer. Like their best season, let's just say for a second, let's just say their Super Bowl season, which was 2004. They were 13-3. Let's just kind of compare for a second, just to give you some numbers. McNabb threw for 3,800 yards, 31 touchdowns, and 8 picks. Played in 15 games. They had Westbrook, had 1,500 yards from scrimmage. They had Owens, Pinkston, Freddie Mitchell, L.J. Smith, Chad Lewis, Dorsey Levens, Jesus God, Reno Mahi, Greg Lewis. You know what? They didn't have Devontae Smith. They didn't have Barkley. They didn't have A.J. Brown and an offensive line. Wow. Plus, they played in a bad NFC East. I can see the Falcons getting in next year. League needs Bijan in the playoffs. I need to see that. They need a quarterback because I don't trust Penix. I don't. I really don't. They had a great pass blocking line. Owens and him were ridiculous. They were. They put up a lot of points that year, too. Defense was good. So their 2004 defense, and let's be honest, they went through Minnesota and Atlanta to get to the Super Bowl. Ugh. Their defense was second in the league. Their defense was second in the league. They allowed 16.3 points per game. So that's a great defense. I'm sorry. That is a great defense. They went from when they really started to get good, right, 2001. Their 2001 defense was actually better than 2004. They gave up just 13 points a game. 2002, they gave up 15. They were always a top 10 defense, except for 2005. They had a down year, obviously, but they were always a pretty damn good defense. McNabb was a very good quarterback, wasn't a great quarterback. And yes, 100%, totally different era. It's really hard to even have those conversations. I think it's to each his own, right? Ooh, Michael's coming with the throwback, which we reserve on a Thursday. That's okay. 98 Broncos, 98 Vikings could have been a top 5 Super Bowl. Vikings didn't get upset by Atlanta. That might have been the Vikings' best chance, believe it or not, to win a Super Bowl. That could have been their best. They were truckloading teams that year. Every time you looked up, they were scoring 30 something odd points a game. They averaged 34 points a game. Now, let's just go back for a second. Denver was 14-2 that year. They allowed about 20 a game. Denver, they were undefeated 13-0. Remember, they lost to the Giants late. Then they lost to Miami. They blew out Miami in the playoffs. They took care of the Jets. Minnesota would have gave them a much better game than Atlanta. You knew the game was over. What was it? The first play, second, third play, that first series when Denver had the ball? I think it was no, it was, I'm sorry. It was in the late in the first or second quarter. I think it might have been early in the second quarter when um, when Elway hit Rod Smith and they beat Eugene Robinson because he was, hanging out with the lot lizards. 17-3, the game was over. The game was over. Minnesota would have given them a much better game. And I'll tell you what, yeah, Jimmy Johnson, yeah, I mean, great defense. That game, just to give you a little insight, Denver was favored by 7.5. The over was 52. If they would have played Minnesota, I would say Denver still would have been a slight favorite in that game. Denver would have been a 3.5, 4-point favorite in that game because of Elway. Because of Elway. They would have been favored in that game. I bet you that total would have been, and plus the other thing is Denver was already coming off a Super Bowl win. So they're defending champs. And they were better the next year. So 14-2, 3.5, 4-point favorite over Minnesota. That total would have been about 58. That can you imagine that Denver defense trying to shut down that Minnesota offense? That Minnesota offense was just on another level. Yeah, I was pissed. I wanted to see Minnesota get in because Cunningham was having a rebirth, and Atlanta was a great story because I was always a Dan Reeves fan. Even after his time with Denver, when he had a cup of coffee coaching the Giants, I always liked Dan Reeves. He was a stand-up guy. And, that was kind of like, okay, I can never win it with Denver. Now I have an opportunity to beat them. They just got outclassed. They got outclassed. And think about that playoffs, too. Think about that crazy playoffs. So they had a low-scoring game against the 49ers. They made a couple stops late. The Minnesota game, Anderson misses the friggin' field goal to ice it. That's pretty much the game. That's pretty much the game. And oh, by the way, he didn't miss a field goal all season long. And he just pushes it. And they had the crazy game against the Arizona Cardinals, 41-21, not even competitive. And then you get to the NFC Championship, and you're right there. And that you talk about bad losses. Has a franchise had worse playoff loss than that? I mean, Gary Anderson was automatic all season long. All season long. And then you misses the field goal at short field. Here we go. Morton Anderson ties it up, right? Morton Anderson cuts it to 7. And then Mathis from remember Chris Chandler? All those concussions. Then you go into overtime, and that's it. That was a brutal loss. That was an absolute heartbreaking loss if you're a Minnesota Vikings fan. Heartbreaking. They had no business losing that game. They were an 11.5-point favorite in that game. No business losing that game at all. Mike, the Broncos Packers was top 5 in my opinion. That was intense. Everyone outside of Green Bay wanted it for number 7. Sure, this one's for John. Carter, Moss, Rocket, Randall. Yes. Green Bay and Denver was good. It wasn't, I don't think it was an all-time great. I don't think it was an all-time great, right? Louisville. Don't forget Dr. Smith, the running back. Hartford. I still like to say Louisville, even though you guys say Hartford, Connecticut. That's funny. Yes, TJ. There you go. There you go. Louisville. There you go. Louisville. 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 All right, 6 o'clock. I didn't realize it was already 6 o'clock. TD had a monster season. Yes, he did. If it wasn't for Mark Bruner, Broncos could have been best team of the decade. That's when the Jacksonville beat them on the road, mind you. On the road. Was that 95? That Jacksonville team. And if you recall, who also got to the championship game that year? Carolina. So you had 2 expansion teams. Was it 95? No, 96, right? Had to be 96. 95, 96, or 97. Was it 97? No, they lost. They lost in the wild card. Right? Yeah, no. 96. 96, they beat Buffalo. They beat Denver in the divisional round. I think that game was on the road. Correct me if I'm wrong. That game was at Denver. That was a huge win for Coughlin. Huge win for Coughlin. Denver was favored by 12.5 in that game. I just pulled it up. How about this box score? Ready? John Elway, 25 of 38, 226, 2 touchdowns. Davis went for 91. Natron Means had 140 yards on the ground. Wow, for Jacksonville. From North Carolina. That was a very good Coughlin coach team. Do you think the 98 Broncos beat the 98 Vikings, Q? Man. You got to slow down that offense. Well, Atlanta was able to do it. That would have been a hell of a game, man. That would have been a hell of a game. The pass he hit on the left side to Jimmy Smith, talking about Burnell. 96. Yeah. Jacksonville's always been a dagger for the Broncos. Well, hopefully not this season. Yeah, at Denver. I remember I watched that game with my college roommate. Then we were out in North Jersey, and I was like, this is unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. And again, I also believe Carolina made the NFC Championship too. They made the NFC Championship. Remember, they beat Dallas, and then they lost to who did I have that? 95 or 96 Carolina team. 95 or 96. It had to be 96, right? They lost to Green Bay. Yeah, 12-4. That was Dom Capers. Dom. Wow. That was Kerry Collins and Steve Berline. What was the line? I got to pull it up real quick. The line against Dallas was a favorite on the road. They were a 4-point favorite on the road against Carolina, and they lost. All right, let's start wrapping it up. A couple minutes past 6. Expansion teams were inaugurated in 95. Then they both made conference championships in 96. Correct. You are correct, yes. We might get a little power hour on Saturday, mañana, because we got a couple games we want to document as well. Got some NBA. Want to touch base on that. Little night on the association. Good stuff from John Bueller. Eric Davis. Yes. Don Capers' defense was serious. Yes. We'll do a little power hour tomorrow. Good stuff from John Bueller chiming in for a couple minutes. Don't forget, a new edition of Back Your Play is out on Amazon Apple, and also on Spotify. If you keep us locked into the Odyssey app, don't forget to download the Odyssey app. Check out Coast Sports Digital Network. We're also on Kicks. We'll be on Rumble too, starting the 1st of January. Excellent job with you guys keeping it locked in for well over 2 hours on a Friday. Tomorrow, little power hour. We'll get more into the games, some player props, bets, predictions. Check out the notifications on the YouTube channel. Okay, Madman, check out the notifications on the YouTube channel so you don't miss any of the notifications. Also, appreciate our good friends over at Fresh Roasted Coffee, Three Brooks Bourbon, Get Ready with Tea, and of course, Play It Again Sports, 2 locations, Deptford and Mount Laurel. You guys have a wonderful Sports Friday. We'll be back in Saddle Manana. Check out the YouTube notifications. We'll probably fire off at 12 or 1. We'll see if we can actually grab Angel for a couple minutes as well. You guys have a good Sports Friday. Until then, I'm Rich Quinones. This has been On Cue. We will talk to you tomorrow. Be safe, be sound. Hasta luego, buen día.